This is 3FM.
I stood in 2011 in Ayre before the constituencies are reorganised. So I'm standing again in Ayre, but now I've got the benefit of standing in Ayre and Michael. There's a lot of elderly people in Ayre and Michael. The economy will bother them. The elderly people, I mean, they're now going to have to pay for their own TV licence, those over 75, unless they're on some kind of benefit. And that's going to affect a lot of people. You know, I mean, I think in total there's something like 700 people on the island that use that get that benefit. They don't all claim it. I mean, there's about 500, I think, actually claim it. But, you know, just looking at it statistically, there's going to be 100 of those in Ayre and Michael. They're going to have to suddenly pay £145.50. And they're not going to be happy. And I don't think they should have to pay it. They don't in England. And then you've got Ayre and Michael itself. Ayre and Michael's got a big problem with land erosion at the moment. And I've been down there, had a good look at it, and I'm standing there looking at this cliff of sand, because it's basically a sandbank. And there's trickles of sand coming down all the time. It's not just when you get a bad storm. There's continual erosion. And gravity is doing its job. And it is a bank of sand. And so they had a bank of sand. They built a housing estate on top of it. Not too bright an idea, especially when there's no edge to it. so there's that weight bearing down on it. There's any water that falls on there now falls right on the edge of the cliff. Well, I think the nearest house is about 120 yards away. Other issues, apart from the finance, apart from the TV licences, apart from the erosion, the state of the roads are pretty atrocious. And I think 95% of Ayre and Michael roads are dreadful. They've patched them up. Yeah, all right. Still not good enough, really. I mean, you wouldn't get that country roads anywhere else. The promenade hasn't been resurfaced since 1945. You can still see the fence holes from the war. Well, they had various camps across various interners camps. 45 years. That's 45. So that's 70 years ago. They haven't. Why hasn't it been done since? I don't understand why not. Now it's to a point where it's crumbling and collapsing underneath. Well, you know, maybe they've done something 40 years ago when we had lots of money, or even 10 years ago when we were still getting the VAT that we weren't actually due, but we were getting it. Maybe they spent it on it then, rather than a huge loan which they're paying off for the power station or the incinerator, something that wasn't urgently needed. But the prom, it's a shame when you come off the boat and you turn on the prom and think, well, hang on, what's going on here? The government, I think, want to communicate, they just don't know how to. And when they do, they get it wrong a lot of the time. The idea, they brought in a Freedom of Information Act that is tied so much that you can't actually use it. Now there's a situation where, and it was in the bill when it was first put forward, as I read it years ago, that there's actually a cost cap. If it costs too much to answer a question, they're not going to answer it. Well, I'm sorry, but what else are these officers doing? They work from 8 till 5 or whatever, 5 days a week. That is their job. If they can't answer the questions within that time frame, no question on this island is going to be that complex. It's an excuse not to answer questions. Plus, the other thing, that you can't ask a question if it relates to anything before the bill is brought in, I believe, or maybe the start of this administration. I can't remember exactly which it is. Why not? Why can't you ask a question from 20 years ago if it hadn't been answered? That isn't freedom of information, that's selective information. It's like a school playground. Some don't talk to others, some bully others, and it is bullying going on. It is just pure bullying, you know, just pure weight of power. It's just no communication amongst them. I mean, I've been sat in MHK's office, talking to two MHKs. Another Bob walked in and told me to get out without a binaural link. Just get out, you shouldn't be in my office. Oh, sorry, but it's their office. But it's mine as well, I don't want you in here. That's bullying.
More music for the Isle of Man.
3FM.